Okay, all you devils, how you doing out there? Sam here. Let's see, we're about early afternoon here on Thursday the 9th. Thought we'd do a quick update here on a couple of things we've been just kind of following through here, both on the S&P, the Dow, and we'll look at gold, which continues to be difficult to get a handle on, at least from the Elliott side. Now, so before we do that, right, my marketing guys will kill me if I don't do this, right? So okay, just a reminder, we've got this contest going on. All right, it's a nice little package here. Very easy to enter. I should mention this. I haven't mentioned this before. The link to access here, I've had a few people saying, hey, well, how do I enter? The link is directly under the video in the description. It literally says membership giveaway link. And that will bring you here, right, this is where we compile all the entries. Well, actually, this little software platform does it. You can enter email, your Twitter handle, then right, so simple tasks. So the one that gets you the most points is to join our Discord, the free Discord. Tweets, retweets, likes, subscribe on YouTube. All of those things give you more points. More points, the higher your odds of winning. We've got 19 days left. It's kind of a cool little thing, right? 3 months of educational, $600 value. That's not bad, right? If you're stuck at home, that might be a nice, tasty little treat there. Okay, so we've got that. And then some of you may have seen, if you're following us on Twitter, we're doing a lot of live streaming now. We're doing them 3 days a week for an hour and a half. Oh, I tend to go a little bit longer. Depends on how the market's treating us. Where we're demonstrating all of these custom, these are NinjaTrader based. So these are all custom indicators that my partner and I designed here. And I draw your attention here because we've continued to add to this. So all of the premium indicators are here. These are all the new ones: Devil's Pitch, market internals, our news indicator, an unfilled gap indicator, and then our volume profile. I think very competitively priced, very reasonable. These are not the most expensive, but they're probably not the least expensive either, but there's a lot of value here, and each one of these will have a video attached to it. So if you're unsure about what it is, what it's doing, how it's useful, this one in particular, probably the most value in watching the measured move indicator. That will give you sort of the whole background of why we use it, how it's used, how it's advantageous to you. So that's available to you. And then, as always is the case, right, you can always check us out, join us here under our plans free, right? So that's a double bonus here. That'll get you into the Discord. Now, remember, as I said, there's no link underneath to the Discord. You go through the website. That'll drop you into the Discord. That'll get you entry points into our contest. And then, of course, our other packages are here. This one being focused on the belt system. Social, right? If you're not interested in the belt system, we're not ready for that yet. Social gets you pretty much essentially everything but the belt system. So that's a reasonable alternative for you. Maybe eventually you want to tackle the belt system, but if not, that's a stair step in. Okay, with that said, all right, let's get a look here at the S&P. So, of course, it's all as to how you want to view this, because this can be interpreted either way. I shouldn't say it that way. It's not how you choose to view it. It could be interpreted either way, so it makes it a little bit difficult here. So the Fed. Oh gosh, here I switch platforms here. It takes me a minute to remember. So the Fed is really trying to do this for us, right? They really want to create a V-bottom. This is unprecedented what they're doing. As I said on the live stream today, it's one hell of a big experiment. Never been done before. They are they're just throwing everything they've got at this, and I think more to be thrown at it still. So are we done, right? So is this going to be just another V-bottom? I think that's, just common sense. Is it possible? Of course it's possible, right? Is it likely? Is it probable? Well, we can be objective here. I think you can so certainly you could look at this. Excuse me, guys. So certainly you could look at this and be thinking, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're back to game on, right? We're back off to new highs. Well, maybe not so fast here. Right? So you certainly can count this as 5 down. It gets, this is where we had all the limit moves. Very hard to get a count on this that you'd have a high degree of confidence in. But the structure, the basic structure of this sure does look like a 5. Now, can you see it and can you put together an ABC that's valid? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So what's more probable? straight V bottom recovery, I think that is less likely. So, but we can be definitive about it. So if it's A, B, which is what I'm inclined to think, that we've got 5 down into an A, we're seeking the B. So if it's A, B, well, there's a couple of things here. So I'm on an hourly. Let's zoom in here a little bit. So many of you saw this, right? So the slight front run on this. But boy, did they tag the target. So so if it's 1, 2, which I think is what we've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into the A. Now this is dicey, but technically, right, it's an internal retracement. So if I pull from the proposed 2 of the A here, which is, it gets me a little bit closer, right? So I could pull from the all the way down. It's damn near the same difference, right? It's a couple of ticks. That's a bit of a, it looks like it was a front run because look at the result here, right? So how do we know it's an algo? It's not this, it's that, right? Right to the target, right? It ticks the target, backs off. That's how we know it's an algorithm. So as it comes down here, now we look at that and go, oh, okay, well, what happened? Well, this is pretty straightforward, right? So we had this nice structure here, this support here, right on the edge of 1 standard deviation, we get this nice pullback here, and lo and behold, it turns out to be just a perfect, now look what we get here. So if this is from the 5, oh, I've got the wolf range on. Let me get back to just a basic, right? So we come to the 38. Now, we're not quite to target yet. So the market, this looks like not much here on an hourly, but the market has had somewhat of a trend change. We essentially, we're just looking over here at Ninja. We're still within the IB on the day, which is interesting. Just taking a look. So it's crude just in free fall now, right? So that crude is dragging the markets down. So everything's dropped down. So gold's down, all of it after being up all morning. So now we're getting some of the news about the prospects of a deal in between the Saudis and the Russians, perhaps some shenanigans going on there, but that is now just in complete free fall. So that's pulling everything with it. And of course, there are algos that are tied to crude for the S&P. So you can understand why the market has sold off here yet. Now we're not done for the day, but that's just looking at it here. So you look and you think, okay, well, coming off of this B, can I get a 5 there? Well, sure as hell can. So I've got a proposed 5, a 3, and a 5, and we're to the 50. Now we're through the 50 from the top, right? And let's be clear. All right, here's 50 from our all-time high. All right. It sure has been technical, right? No surprise. Here's the big resistance here. I don't know if I can get that, draw it, right? So just coming across. So we've got, well, let's get all of it. Let's get all of this action right here. So if that is what our resistance is, and we can just structurally look and say, okay, sellers may very well be defending there. Be interesting to see if we go up and get that algo target here from this 38. Curious if it's, well, that's interesting. So if you're working the extension, so if you're going high to high, we come golden zone. We've already got the target. Remains to be seen here, but we are certainly, and then you could kind of also just the same idea here. We've got some low volume here because there was no market acceptance here. We just had a couple of trades, so very low pivot here, and then we've got a set of median lines here, but look where that is pointing. So remember, it's 80% probability, as long as this pivot holds, 80% probability that we get there. Interesting. So we're not there. So keep this in mind as well. And we had just a great example today on the live stream in the, well, I think it was in the S&P. A failure, remember this, trading principle number 4, a failure to make the median line sets up a move equal to or greater than the swing that preceded it, right? That failed to get there. So 100% of that would put you right back down here. It does look like there's a zigzag that's trying to complete. Now, let's see, what have I got in here? So this is just a fancy RSI, but you can see a little divergence here. So divergence is very, very evident here. So that's just an RSI and a moving average of it. And here's the Elliott oscillator. So it's kind of maybe a little top heavy, right? It's looking like maybe it could be. And of course, markets are closed tomorrow. Wouldn't be surprised to see the market kind of. I don't think we're going to get out of the IB today. It just looks like it's one of those days, which is unusual. We're going to stay entirely within the initial balance for the day, unless there's more of a sell-off coming at the end of the day. Right now, the IB is sitting right at VWAP, so it wouldn't be surprising to see that be some support. But this we could be done here. So you go down to a 15-minute. it's kind of interesting. It's another one of those sloppy twos. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, are we done here? Is there one more kick? Well, you could have one more little kick to really complete that. If it's 1, 2, and you went 1, 2, 3, well, let's look in there. Is that a truncated B? Looks like you'd have to go. Well, that looks like 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A. It looks like you'd have to expand the B and come down for the C. So that might have another leg in it. It's still kind of hard to tell here, right? So at the end of the day, I wouldn't be pursuing any. Well, of course, right? Likely none of you are pursuing new trades to take over a long weekend. I would advise against that unless you're already in something. Maybe you do a little trade management or a little risk control. Right? With a 3-day weekend, a lot of things can happen. So this is interesting. If it's going to fail to get there, this would certainly. So here being the 50 from the top, but that sure does look like it wants to get there. Well, so how would we invalidate? How would we, or let me say that differently. Because if this is going to be an ABC, well, that wouldn't necessarily mean that the low was in, right? Certainly it's possible this could be A, B, and we're going down for the C. We could still have an ABC here, right? So we could have an ABC, so we could have a 3, 3, 5. If that's how it's going to play. Now that's going to require a much higher move here for the B here. Of course, we got to get up 90% of it would be the target if we're going to do a flat, which it's a bit early to be trying to project that. So if right now the area that I think is going to be important here is what happens at this golden zone, right? That's going to define it. But if you're also thinking in terms of from swing low, if we're thinking 1, 2. Well, here's your high probability zone for your third, right here, and that's on the other side of the 7. So let's see if we get the 887 there. Oh shit! I want this here. Let's get the 887 on that. Okay, so interesting, right? So here's the 887 coming in right in here. I know EWI wants 90%, but if we get up here, right, that and finish that, you still got a contender. Now you really would be looking as a contender for a flat. If it's going to be ABC, you'd look for 5 down. So these are things to be watching here. So that, again, there's no trade here necessarily that I can put in front of you here, but I'd be watching for that. If we're going to get through this golden zone, there's your next target. Can we go? Is this going to turn into a 1, 2, 3, or even? And it's not out of bounds to have an A, B, and a 1, 6, 1, 8 in the C. Right? It's a big correction, but it would be in line with the idea that maybe we're going to see a flat come out of this. A little soon to tell. Okay, so let's. With that said, well, here it is in the Dow, right? So it's a little bit more. So here's the 50 from our top, right? So you can understand why it bumped into a little resistance there. Same idea. Is it ABC? Is this going to be well, you can see it a little bit better here. You're going to have to do, is it ABC into a V bottom? Again, considering what the Fed is throwing at the market, it's possible. I just think that's not probable. Right, so take it for what that's worth. The one that I think is the most difficult to get a grip on, and this is kind of a follow-up. Right, I got a lot of pushback on my count here, so I'm looking at this saying, okay, let's assume I'm wrong. So part of what's influencing me here is, well, let me get it to a 12. All right, I mean, shit. Right? I'm not here to tell you that I'm always right. I'm wrong more than I'm right, right? As most traders are that are honest with you. I'm definitely wrong more than I'm right. But I've made a living doing this for 25 years. So the point being, you don't have to be right more than you're wrong. So we're certainly pushing the upper boundaries here. So what's making this difficult is you can count this. Definitely there's 5 here. Now, is it another 5 here? So what would that mean? Are we going to put the 4 here? Oh, let me scrunch this up here. This is tricky, right? So is it A, B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Well, that would imply that maybe only the 3 is in here. But boy, is that it's tough to imagine that's the 4. Well, so it is back to the 3, 4, right? So where you would anticipate it, and there are we technical here? I think from the 2 all the way here. So we didn't quite. I got a cluster here. We can see that. So we're in between the 50 and the golden zone off of this pivot. Anything else here is too secondary. There's golden zone, but that's such a minor pivot. I wouldn't use that. I doubt an algo would have used that. So we're in no man's land, but look at the rip we get up. So let's go look at that. Can that be a 5? Because it sure looks to me like this is 5 followed by 5. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the retrace, and then the final push down here. So this is tough. So the other day when we were looking at this, my thinking being, well, this 3, all right, so this makes this difficult to think, oh, okay, is this a 1, 2, right? And we're going up that way. Well, I guess the alternate here, and I was sort of looking at this saying, how could this play as an impulse? If this is going to end up being a 4, where's my 4? Shit, well, I thought I had one down here. If this is going to end up being the 4, well, first, you got to get, so you'd have to be thinking this way. You'd have to think A, B, C. Symmetry is not great. Right? We can agree on that, I think, right? Regardless of whether you're gold bull, right? So I understand, right? You'd be thinking gold would be rallying here given what's happening. So how can we, so if that's going to be an ABC into the 4 and this is going up into the 5, if again, assuming this is the 3, right? I could be wrong there. How can we get this to play? How can we get an impulse here? Well, because this is such a clear 3, the only thing that I could come up with is we get an expanded B wave here. So the idea being that you've done 1A down, expanded B, sorry guys, expanded B, and then down for the C. Well, interestingly, if I take the length of the A, of the proposed A here, we go 1618 to the tick, the length of the proposed A. All right, so you look there and you go, all right, well, it's technical. Now, was it some of this structure also? So if that's 1, 2, I mean, boy, it's barely squeaking by, right? But it stays above the pivot low. So maybe it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Sure looks like 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like it's trying to complete something up here. Right? Now, could that be? So you kind of have the same issue here. Could it be a flat? Because this, to call this the 4 and dig an ABC out of that, I think you're stretching too much there. Of course, it's possible. Just seems less probable. So here, what do you got here, right? So you got a freaking V recovery. It's not like they don't happen. Let's see, how am I doing on time? There's 15 minutes. Okay, let me wrap up here. The one other thing I wanted to show you guys was the oh shit, now I gotta find it. Okay, it took me a minute to find it, so rather than have you guys sit through me clicking through 15 charts here, usually I mark them so I can find them. But what I wanted to show you here was the correlation between Bitcoin and ES. Right? So here, this is just the correlation coefficient is what I'm trying to say. So if you're looking for the indicator on TradingView, if you just type in CC's coefficient correlation. So it's interesting to watch how they're moving. So what draws your eye to that? Well, swing high to swing low, Bitcoin, just like the S&P, sitting just beyond the 50 and running into structure. Interesting, right? So highly correlated on the way down, and now apparently that correlation is back now here as we've come up, as we're working off the low in the same manner the S&P is. Of course, the path down, the path up are not identical, but just the movement and the range here is almost identical, just beyond the 50. So something to keep an eye on. Just kind of thing, just maybe a little bit of a clue as to what's coming here. So I guess I hadn't shown that. We look at that a lot with in the FX markets, right? So you're not over leveraged or overexposed to. You don't want too much leverage to one particular currency or currencies that move together in the same direction. So that's where we spent most of our time on the training with that. But that's just worthwhile to take a note of it here. So interesting to see how they resolve. Okay, guys, that's all I got for today. We'll talk to you later.